everyone to the 7th session of our Growing Opportunities in Canadian Agriculture webinar series, where we will be chatting with a diverse group of individuals from the agricultural sector. So today we have Katharine from Ag in the Classroom, Manitoba. I can't wait to dive in to all the meaningful work that you and your organization are doing. As you know from our previous conversations together, I'm so passionate about youth getting that exposure to all things ag. So with that said, Katharine, how about we start with an introduction from you and on Ag in the Classroom?
Great. Well, I'm just so thankful to be here today. I'm the Executive Director of Agriculture in the Classroom, Manitoba. Our goal at Ag in the Classroom, Manitoba, and in my sister organizations across the country is really to foster a deeper understanding between students and educators among various grade levels to the agriculture sector. And, we really are bridging the gap, or we aim to bridge the gap between the industry and the education sector. So we do that by collaborating with producers, with agriculture professionals, industry, educators, government. And so we're at Ag in the Classroom, Manitoba, we really aim to produce accurate, balanced, current resources, programming initiatives that reflect not only what educators need in classrooms, but the dynamic nature of agriculture in Canada. And Manitoba is my focus, but in Canada as well.
Great. Yeah. I adore the initiative behind Ag in the Classroom. And I imagine, there's so much information out there. Some of it, definitely a bit misleading, especially if you don't have that fundamental understanding of agriculture and how it works. What would you say the secondary school educational landscape looks like, today compared to, in the past? Are you getting more exposure to agriculture? Is it becoming more, commonplace? Or
I would say that I can only speak for really Manitoba's landscape right now. Agriculture isn't specifically in a lot of areas of our curriculum from K to 12. There are areas where we piggyback onto concepts that sort of lend itself nicely to agricultural concepts as well throughout the K to 12 sort of landscape. In high school, though, there is a unit in grade 10 geography called Food from the Land. And so we do a lot of, that's an area that's easy for us to talk about, food from the land, So we talk, we have lots of resources and lots of programs that specifically reach the teachers who teach grade 10 geography. There's also a few other places. There's optional agriculture courses right now that are becoming more popular. So that's, and especially in certain areas, you can see the pockets in Manitoba where that is happening every year. It really depends on, the level of interest from educators, the relative comfort that they have in teaching those concepts. Agriculture is a very complicated subject. There's lots to know. And so I would hope that over the last 35 years, Agriculture in the Classroom Manitoba has made it easier for an educator to feel comfortable teaching and talking about these complicated, subjects about agriculture, especially because agriculture is not, it's advanced, it's big business. It is, there's technology, there's lots of STEM related kind of concepts to be teaching, as well as like global issues, there's lots of things. So I think that's sort of like whether or not there's a lot of agriculture in high school. But I will say what's interesting about the landscape that's a bit different in secondary schools, and I'll just speak from my own experience being in high school many years ago. It feels like it's not one size fits all. It's highly differentiated now. There are a lot of different needs, and those needs they're being met in different ways. So educators are being asked to extend, to go beyond just like one size fits all classroom. There's a lot more vocational focus, I would say, in some of the high schools in Manitoba, which is an amazing opportunity for students who who learn differently, who want to learn more of a skill, more of a trade. And we need that in agriculture, right? We're meeting students where they're at instead of teaching to one level. Some of the issues I think I've heard from educators is attendance is an issue, like how are we going to bring students back in, especially after COVID, we're still in that sort of, figuring out. Attendance is an issue. Inclusivity is very important. And so, yeah, maybe I'll just keep going. What we've done about that, actually, I'll just say as well, what we've noticed in high school and in from grade 9 to 12, students really love to keep playing. They love to play. They love to learn through play. It's a bit more of a sophisticated type of play, but they love to learn through competition and through, different ways of bringing concepts to them, but through fun. And so, yeah, I would say that's kind of how it's maybe the same, but also maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, well, when I think about, like you're saying, when I was back in high school, thinking about agriculture, I grew up in rural Manitoba, right? So you would think that there would be that heavy focus on like my whole community's ag, everything around me is like wheat fields and soy. But realistically, in my education, what I remember learning to do with ag was really about like plant science, not so much learning about that agricultural sector and how much bigger it is than learning about, the structured components in plant cell. And whatnot. So it's so interesting to see how things are changing and where people are getting interest. It's so nice, the vocational component, like you said, when you're talking about play and whatnot. And I think how when I'm, as I'm growing up, I play in the garden to learn things about, plants and about how right? It doesn't stop at that at any age, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
I think one of the most important things about what we know about how to reach students is really we focus on inspiring the educator. And if the educator feels comfortable, if the educators really want to know that what they're bringing to their students is going to better their students' experience, right? And give them more opportunities. And so if an experience gives the educator an opportunity to bring a concept to that class in an engaging way that helps them, yes, meet their curricular outcomes, but also their students are getting something out of it. They're taking something away. They've had this experience. That's the magic sauce, that is really the magic spot of making sure something is going to be grasped, that concept. So really looking for ways to inspire the educator in saying, we will give you something of high quality. It will help you meet all these curricular outcomes, and your students are going to have fun, or they're going to engage in something that you can use in multiple classes after. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think you kind of already started getting into that. The next question here about what you found engages are the most in terms of like educational resources. Do you have anything else you want to expand upon that you guys specifically are doing?
Yeah, I think, so interactive experiences like in the career space, we have been playing around with a few concepts over the last year since we've launched our ag career exploration program. And one of the ways that we have really found successful, because we are trying to involve as much of the industry as possible, industry really wants to be in front of students. And we want them to be in front of students because we want those opportunities to be direct, right? But we also want to be able to help bridge that gap to how do you speak to students in a way that they're going to want to engage with you. So something like our engaged career fairs, where it's not just booths, industry have booths and students come and they're often shy and they don't know how to talk to people. So every booth has an interactive station where a student will come and actually do something that will then allow that conversation to flow from that, right? That's a really important part of the learning opportunity. And so I think our industries really they have a lot of fun. like our booths, have a lot of fun coming up with ideas, and that's where we come in with our expertise on how to. I think experiential learning opportunities as much as possible. We have, some resources like the career case game that allows for a real world scenario that helps students like compete and play collaboratively together to find out, what 5 jobs are needed to solve this real world problem. And that's a whole national resource. Incorporating a lot of digital tools. So digital agriculture is super important. Virtual, like we have virtual farm tours so that if students are in a geographic region that they can't actually come to a farm, then we provide those opportunities. Gaming, like, we're looking at how do you bring that sort of gaming aspect, coding, looking at those kinds of things. And then I think really looking at some of our programs like the one that you volunteer for, Canadian Agriculture Literacy Month, this national program where in Manitoba we bring, volunteers from the sector into classrooms. They're sharing their stories. Agriculture becomes real. It becomes about people to people. It becomes about relationships. And to me, that's the best part about agriculture, right? It's about people wanting to connect with other people for something that's super important, which is food, right? Food connects us all. How are you involved in getting food from the farm to the plate? And so I think that's sort of the way that we've found works well. And as soon as a teacher is a champion of ours through seeing that firsthand, those experiences, they come back for more. They want to be involved. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, for agriculture, I feel like so much of it is family, like you have so many farms and whatnot you go on to. You're speaking at that level where it's family run, family operated. But even that sense of community you get, right? Like when you're making your connections with people, we all connect. It always kind of can bring you in together where there's like, I don't like this thing or I love this. You still get that sense of camaraderie and
Yeah.
bringing together.
One of the best couple of examples, I was in a urban school in a high school in Winnipeg and having a conversation with a class that were playing our career case game and just saying, what are you thinking of doing? And they were grade 10 students. And the one boy just said, oh, well, I want to be a truck driver. Like, but I want to own my own semi, and and I said, do you see how you are involved in the agriculture sector? There's a job for you. And he said, yeah, I guess, I can haul anything. I said, yeah. And as we were playing, he's looking at the cards to kind of solve this sort of scenario. And there was like heavy duty mechanic card. And he was kind of, you could see his wheels turning, and he's like, wait a second, if I also get this and I own my own semi and I'm a truck driver, like I'm unstoppable. Like I can do it all. I was like, yeah, that's great. But then there was another student at the back of the class and, like Skid Row toque, like you just really long hair. And I said, what do you want to do? And he said, I'm going to be a pastry chef. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be a pastry chef. And then his friend sort of said, yeah, this guy can bake. Like he's amazing. And I said, well, do you see how you might be, involved in the agriculture sector or how agriculture relates to you? And he said, yeah, I was thinking about all the different kinds of flours I could use in my pastry. And I thought, these are the kind of conversations you want to have, and you want someone to understand their connection to the industry, to see how they might be involved, and then to see a pathway, just one little pathway, or to even be in post-secondary and be in business school, and then to be thinking like, actually, I can see myself working at this grain company as a grain marketer or something. Our paths are windy, right? They're not linear. And my path wasn't linear into agriculture. Many of my colleagues' paths aren't linear. And so having these conversations and allowing this storytelling to happen really allows everyone's path to be acceptable into our industry, as long as they get here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key part. Get it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, how can students today kind of like, you're talking about that leaving, getting into
Mhm.
agriculture, how can they find those career pathways to help, further educate in agriculture specifically? Because, that's obviously maybe a gap's too generous of a word, but, it's something that we're a little bit more lacking still. I don't know if it's, a value thing or it's just intimidating to take on something big like that for generations to learn from or that kind of thing. What would you say on that?
So the question is kind of interesting, like how can a student find their pathway? I I don't think it's on the student. I think it's on the adults. I think it's on us. I think it's on educators and it's on our industry to make that path as clear as possible, to make any path, like we always love to say, whatever you are interested in, there is a role for you in agriculture. There's a pathway into this industry. I think it's on organizations like Agriculture in the Classroom. That's what we work so hard on, building these pathways. So if a student is in grade 5, they already understand that food production, growing food, helping those who grow food, helping get that food to the grocery store, helping, all of that stuff happens in their province, in their community. There's a place for them to be working on that pathway somewhere. So primary agriculture, yes. Okay, primary ag is really important, but ag adjacent jobs are important, and I think if a student wants to go into business school at the University of Manitoba, it is on us to make sure that those students hear about agriculture, about this sector, about what opportunities exist, right? If they want to be an accountant, do they, in Manitoba, they're going to be working with clients that are in agriculture. Do they know, what do they need to know? Like a little bit of Ag 101, just to understand that this is one of the main industries in our province. Across the country, it's the same, right? I think Kark is the one who has all the stats about this, right? By 2030, is it 123,000 jobs that are going to be, sort of open, like the gap is widening. What we're all sort of talking to the same students in every sector in order to fill all the gaps, right? So we're all kind of competing for that. So I think, are there ways for us to show that the pathway, it's not a competition, it's, you want to be an accountant, great. You're going to be working with some of these clients. So here's a little bit of information. Just know that you're connected to it. But if a student really is curious about the pathway, I mean, they would attend maybe one of our career fairs. And maybe they want to get a summer job at like co-op, or they want to do work integrated learning. Maybe they don't want to go to post-secondary. They want a direct entry job, right? There's like, I think it was the stat in Manitoba is there's 4 jobs for every graduate, for post-secondary, for college. But after high school, I'm not sure what that stat is actually. Like, how many direct entry jobs are there for high school students who just want to start working? I know that there are organizations, there's a few manufacturers, equipment dealers who are looking at how to involve high school students who maybe aren't going to go in the academic route, but they really are talented with, working with their hands, internships through high school, just like bringing students along into that so that they will continue to work and grow within the company. I think those are really important opportunities as well. Yeah, I think there's mentorships, there are internships, there are opportunities galore if you can find them. I think one of the goals of Ag in the Classroom is to really try and bring all of those opportunities in one place, because educators are overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
so they need a place that's trustworthy, that they know is accurate, balanced, and current, and they need a space where they understand that this information is good for their students, right? It's okay to integrate this because it makes sense too. It's, to not talk about the opportunities in agriculture, actually to withhold some opportunities for their students. And that's one of the things that we're trying to instill. The other thing is we're trying to just make ag cool, right? Because I remember talking to my career counselor in high school, and it was like, you can do this, you can, a pharmacist, you can, you can go into business, you can be a teacher, you can be like, no one talked about agriculture as a science degree. And I loved ecology. I loved biology and ecology. There's agroecology, right? There's agronomy. So ag is a science degree. It's a biosystems engineering degree. It's a business degree. It's an international business degree. Like, there are so many things about agriculture that are so cool. So yeah.
Well, and even now, right, it's right into the information technology, it's into drones and piloting,
Yes.
like, again, not all people think it's like, well, drones is a whole other thing, but piloting, right? Like, you don't have to just go to airlines or into armed forces or something like that.
Absolutely.
Fly out in the fields. There's so many different opportunities. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
I definitely remember having those conversations too with my counselor, not having egg brought up. But it's nice to see, all the effort that you're putting in. I think it's getting noticed. I think people are getting more familiar. We're trying to do, similar things with our growing opportunities program, right? And trying to get people from outside just ag degrees getting those work integrated learning opportunities in post-secondary too. So it's nice that we're going at all angles,
One of the things we have found successful in Manitoba is that our ag career exploration program really starts with helping students know themselves a little bit better. So we use the Holland Code that's geared towards the agricultural careers. So getting them, understanding their own strengths and what they like to do, then understanding a little bit more about what is agriculture, what kind of roles exist in agriculture, and then showing them the pathway in. So that's really our method, is like, through this exploration, they will have more information at the end of it to say, I kind of want to look into this. We have really amazing resources to to help teachers walk their students through that exploration. And I'm, we're a year in, a little bit over a year into this, and, we're reaching tens of thousands of students through these programs. So I can only imagine where it's going to go in the next few years.
Yeah, it's exciting. Exciting to think about.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, now we will open it up to any questions that our attendees here may have for Katharine or myself, kind of anything that we've covered today. Feel free to throw it in the chat feature or in the Q&A feature, and we will do our best to answer what we can. Perhaps while we're waiting for those to come in, what would you say is maybe like a highlight of your career, or something that you're most proud of, or even how you want to talk about how you got into ag? I know you kind of spoke about that. You didn't start in ag. How you came to find your path in ag.
My pathway to ag. Well, I really loved science, like biology, and so I was in the Faculty of Science at University of Manitoba, and it's a huge faculty. There's a lot of students in there, and I really loved ecology. It just seemed to come to me. I love this. I love systems and systems of all kind, and I remember being at a Manitoba social, someone's wedding social in a small town in Manitoba. And they asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm in ecology at the University of Manitoba. And fourth year ag student said, do you want a job when you graduate? And I said, yeah, I would love that. And he said, you should go into agroecology. It's a brand new program in agriculture. And, for me, job security, employment security was really, really important. I didn't grow up in a family with a lot of, with job security being, there wasn't a lot of job security. So that was really important. And so that actually made me, and I am 2 generations removed from a farm. I understand, what rural Manitoba looks like. So I went into agriculture like within weeks, and I never looked back. And I remember being an undergrad and seeing a program like agriculture in the classroom. And in my mind, I just went, yeah, I love that. That's where I would feel very comfortable, any kind of extension talking. So that is really my pathway. I was going to be either a teacher or, you know, an ecologist, and now I get to kind of be both.
Nice. Best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's great.
Wonderful. One of our questions that came in is how will foreign graduates secure jobs in Canada? A note on that, CARC has a lot of resources when it comes to income through agridiversity. So if you want to check out our website or actually following CARC on LinkedIn, we're posting constantly about different programs such as the Newcomers one to kind of help guide you through getting into Canadian ag and finding jobs and finding your place here. I don't know if you have anything you want to add on that. It might not be as much in your area.
I wouldn't have a lot of information about that, but I have heard people talk about, you know, direct entry jobs that you know, do hire you know, new Canadians in jobs. I also, yeah, I think the supports that CARC and others have probably very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. This next question, any experience in Ontario's SHSM agriculture? I think it's the Specialist High Skills Major Policy and Implementation Guide. I personally am not familiar with that. It sounds interesting. I might take a look at it after this call, but
I don't know anything about that.
yeah, I would say naturally you are in Manitoba, so Ontario
Yeah.
does quite knowledgeable there. Let's see. Please share a link of platforms where foreign agriculture graduates can find jobs. So in general, you know, for finding jobs, you know, there's a traditional pathways of kind of looking through LinkedIn, looking through Indeed, and the different job boards is a good way to find things. When you go on platforms like LinkedIn, you can use different tags on your search to really filter and figure out what, you know, kind of your niche or your area, depending on what education is, what you're looking for. I don't know, Catherine, do you have anything?
There's also like career fairs, you know, I know that there's one being planned in Winnipeg right now, called the Future is Now Expo. I think, you know, those are really great opportunities to see what is out there. And it's not just agriculture focused, but you know, and so I think there's probably lots of public sort of open expos and career fairs that exist to have conversations. Yep.
Yeah, and that networking component, I think, is so. Apologies about my microphone. My network might be a little bit iffy. Slash, I'm also sick, so my voice might just be crackling. When it comes to finding jobs, as we've spoken about here with some of our recruiters who have joined in, that networking piece is so important and so valuable in finding a place for yourself. Not necessarily just looking for a job opening somewhere, but connecting with someone in a company. You decide your industry, you look into a company, and then one of our other people would talk about it being a top-down approach, you know, industry company, like first going like, here's the job, you know. So the career fair is a perfect place to do that.
Yeah, and it's something that we are adding into a lot of our resources for high school students, you know, to helping them explore some of these jobs. But then what do you do next, right? Where do you go next? So how do you write a resume? How do you write a cover letter? What kind of questions would you like to ask at a, you know, at a networking event? Mock interviewing, like those kinds of things are skills that we really didn't get a lot of in high school when I was in high school, but it's something that we've heard from educators would be very valuable. So we're going to continue to do that. I would also point people to our national website, which is thinkag.ca, and it has lots of career profiles, and you know, it's managed by Agriculture in the Classroom Canada. And it, you know, we have Think Ag initiatives and career initiatives in every province with our collective. So we're very, you know, lucky to have so much work happening throughout Canada. So I think if you're in other provinces, that there is other places to go. But if you're in Manitoba, you can always come to talk to me.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we've hit our 12:30 mark, so I want to say thank you so much,
Yeah,
Catherine, for
thank
joining
you.
us and sharing all of your knowledge and insights on the industry.